I'm Vance Bastion, here with my co-host S.A. Baz Collins for this week's Written on the Edge, Season 8, Episode 35, Last Week This Morning. It's just Baz and I sharing headlines and culture news that has caught our attention for the week of August 6th through 13, plus nominating our wins for the week. Morning, Baz.
Good morning. Good morning. Great times are coming through. Good morning. Good morning to you.
And there's your entertainment for today.
Next.
All right, jumping into my headlines. Something a little new this week. I will cite all my sources and we will have the links in the show notes for both the audio and the YouTube. Ready? Here we go. From NBCnews.com, employees at a Los Angeles Cinnabon walked off the job last Friday in protest of a corporate policy banning LGBTQ pride flags, decor, and pins. The corporation tried to say they don't allow any such things, but it was after the fact and the memo specifically called out the rainbow. So on Monday, they filed their complaint with the California Civil Rights Department. We'll follow that story as it progresses, but for now, don't go eat the unhealthy Cinnabons. If you want the scent, put some butter and cinnamon in a pan in your home and just warm it up. That's all you need. That's what makes you happy, right?
Sure.
From
It's the smell.
All right, fine. From CNN.com, following up on last week's O'Shea Sibley story, a 17-year-old has been arrested in the fatal stabbing. Officials did not name the suspect during the press conference, but New York City Mayor Eric Adams, who spoke at the conference, had this to say: "This is a city where you are free to express yourself, and that expression should never end with any form of violence." Thank you, Mayor of New York City, Eric Adams. Thank you. Joe My God has been following a National Organization for Marriage trend, and he shared their latest email in that they are trying to start a campaign to oppose marriage equality in the United States 8 years after Oberfeld versus Hodges, and their decision is to seek funding for billboards, as if any of that matters to us anymore in our cars. But they're trying, and they're calling it the It's Not campaign. So be aware that these billboards may start popping up on your drive. If so, voice your opinion against them, because the world ain't got no time for hate. Come on.
Do they not understand that kids don't look up from their phones?
I know. That's kind of my point. You know, the person who's driving, in theory, is paying attention to the cars around them. Everybody else is looking at a device.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's get rid of the billboards. They just make
The
the
only
world ugly
time
anyway.
Yeah, I know. The only time we used to look at them is when people used to drive and we didn't have things that would preoccupy ourselves and you had to play those stupid road games. That's when those things were important. Nobody looks at them now.
Right, exactly. um, from the newsroom of collegeboard.org, 2 weeks ago, the Florida Education Commission banned the AP Psych course from being taught in their state, citing their Don't Say Gay laws. But the AP Psychology Board stood strong and would not remove the content from the curriculum requirements. They specifically would not create a censored version of the course and test for the state of Florida. And so just this last Friday, as courses were set to start, Manny Diaz from the Florida Education Commission quietly issued a letter stating schools could teach the course in its entirety according to the College Board standards. Thank you, AP Psychology Board, for standing strong. Thank you. That's actually an important story to follow up on, because Florida's board started citing things like age appropriateness and such. So though the decision was made to allow the AP course to stand as is, there's still going to be some weirdness. In an ongoing struggle for us queer folks to be treated equal, the FDA on the FDA.gov just released a statement following up from a May 2023 guideline. They're going to allow blood donations, and the guidelines have updated. They now require a 3-month pre-donation celibacy period for anyone who's had sex with a new sexual partner, more than one sexual partner, or anal sex. This is to reduce the likelihood of donations by people with new or recent HIV infections. So this was proposed back in May. The guidelines were made official this last week. It's not perfect, but it's a slow reversing of the Titanic. I know, baby steps, baby steps, baby steps. From the WashingtonPost.com, Last year, homosexuality was in the list of acts of sexual conduct, and it quickly drew, oh, I'm sorry, Virginia definition of sexual conduct. And this drew dark criticism because it cast all people in same sex relations as inherently sexual. This year, in an attempt to get the term homosexuality stricken from the ban, State Senator Scott Sorovell said he struck a compromise to get the code changed, with State Senator William M. Stanley, a Republican, who had written a law to require age verification on online pornography sites. The measure won bipartisan support, and when it came before the Judiciary Committee, upon which Sorovell serves, the Democrat offered his support in exchange for an amendment that removed homosexuality from the older law. So when Stanley's bill made it out of the legislature, it was signed. Sorovell is quoted as saying, "I said to Senator Stanley, if you'd like to pass your bill, you'll need to make the definition the same." So basically, I stuck my bill into his bill. This is a sort of belt and suspenders thing, and he was willing to do that if it meant I wasn't going to put meat on his bill and kill it. Sorovell went on to comment, defining sexual conduct as including an open display of homosexuality, to me, reflected a very sort of archaic and prejudiced view as to what homosexuality is. So, in the fight on book bans, we're starting to see some, at least, give and take in Virginia.
And for those who aren't watching it on YouTube, and why
Yeah,
aren't you? Go ahead and subscribe.
Baz is doing things on YouTube that might get us
That might
banned,
get us
but
banned.
they're certainly entertaining.
I just ran with your I stuck my bill into his bill.
Yes,
And
yeah,
something got fucked.
you pounded that home. You really did. From CBSNews.com, on the military front, a group of LGBTQ plus veterans who were kicked out of the military because of their sexual orientation have filed a federal civil rights suit on Tuesday over the Defense Department's failure to grant them honorable discharges or remove biased language specifying their sexuality from service records following the repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell in 2010. It's a class action lawsuit and was filed with the U.S. District Court for the Northern District of California on behalf of 5 veterans claiming the Pentagon's failure to correct this ongoing discrimination. They're saying it represents a violation of constitutional rights, which it does. It's been more than a decade since the military lifted its ban on gay and lesbian troops, but thousands of those discharged under past discriminatory policies like Don't Ask, Don't Tell are still carrying a less than honorable discharge today, depriving them of the full spectrum of benefits, including VA loan programs, college tuition assistance, healthcare, and even some jobs. In a statement to CBS News back in February, the Defense Department said it has conducted several outreach campaigns to inform all veterans who believe they have suffered an error or injustice. The department then went on to refer to a statement from Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin on the 10th anniversary of Don't Ask, Don't Tell. Austin acknowledged there is more work to do, particularly as it relates to righting old wrongs, and he also encourages those who believe they were unjustly discharged to contact their military department's Board for Correction of Military Records or Discharge Review Board. So, if this has affected you, my listeners, please speak up because now is the time. It's being looked at, and it's being looked at on a national level. Let's see, in more Florida news. Why Florida?
Yeah.
And again, this is more fallout news as to how previous or recent legislation has affected the state. From LGBTQNation.com, Florida is experiencing one of the worst teacher shortage situations in the nation, and DeSantis is to blame. The latest fallout from his ill-conceived policies in the state where woke goes to die are data indicating there's a brain drain plaguing the Sunshine State. Brain drain is defined as when highly trained or intelligent people leave a particular region for better opportunities elsewhere. Andrew Spar, the president of the Florida Education Association, told Fox News 13 last week that there are approximately 8,000 teacher and 6,000 support staff vacancies across the state right now. Spar points to a toxic combination of conservative policies and low salaries for the shortage, noting that Florida ranks 48th in the nation in average teacher pay. It's one of the worst teacher shortage situations in the nation, said Spar. What the hell?
Oh, it's easy. They want people to be stupid, so they're fine with educated. This has been going on since the 1950s. My husband's father, who was a superintendent in the was Cincinnati and Cleveland. Okay, and he remembers his father coming home one day and raging about how the Republicans were trying to undermine education then.
Hmm.
So when they say long game, they mean long game,
I know.
and we just need to understand that their entire purpose has been to dumb down society so that they can fearmonger us into doing what we're doing. So, you know, read it for what it is, people.
Yep. My next article actually ties into a bunch of things this week, including the teacher thing. From the bostonglobe.com, when Karen Lauritsen was named the 2023 Idaho Teacher of the Year last September, she was hoping it would be her best school year yet. Instead, she said it turned out to be one of her worst in 2 decades of teaching, and she decided this summer it would be her last. Despite her selection by a Republican administration after a rigorous application process, her nomination was met with attacks on her character from conservative outlets in the state, accusing her of promoting transgenderism and being a left wing activist. Smears that carried into her fourth grade classroom in the form of sudden suspicions about her from parents in her school. She's still the reigning teacher of the year, but she is no longer teaching elementary school or even living in Idaho. Instead, she is taking her talents to a university in Illinois, which for her had been a long considered career move, but has been hastened by this experience. She said, I should have felt celebrated and should have felt like this is a great year. And honestly, it was one of the toughest years I've ever had teaching, not only with my community, but with parents questioning every decision I made as well. Even after 21 years of teaching, my professional judgment was called into question more this year than it ever has in the past. And what she experienced is not an isolated incident. As the culture wars have come for public education in the United States, the Teacher of the Year contest is becoming yet another battlefield. This contest was launched by President Dwight Eisenhower in '52 as a way to honor the profession, and all 50 states, the District of Columbia, and several territories now participate, selecting top educators to represent them in the national competition. It's run by the Council of Chief State School Officers, and winners are customarily feted by the President at the White House. And here's the tie I promised. For Willie Carver, winning Kentucky Teacher of the Year was a joyful surprise and a rare moment when he felt acknowledged as an out gay educator in the rural South. He said he applied after a student joked, yeah, they're really going to let a big gay Appalachian be Teacher of the Year. And at first he laughed, but then he wouldn't. But then he thought he didn't want students like her believing society would shun them for being gay, and so he wanted to prove her wrong. But like Lauritsen, he would not last the duration of his tenure. The comments online questioning his selection and his identity began not long after his appointment in September of 21, and then the attacks grew more pointed. By spring of 2022, Carver said, social media posts and speakers at school board meetings were targeting his work as an advisor to Open Light, a student-led positivity club that was an LGBTQ plus affirming space. One particular parent repeatedly posted about the group, calling it a grooming ground, naming and attacking its founding students and suggesting Carver had nefarious motives. Feeling little support from his Eastern Kentucky school district, Carver thought about toughing it out, he said, but he began to feel his presence was harmful with former students being brought into it, and he wondered what example he was setting. He is quoted as saying, it affected me emotionally so much because of having to fight and how tiring that was, and the depression that comes with being abused. And as much as I wanted them to see a queer teacher, I didn't want them to assume they would have to be depressed and broken as well. He resigned his job teaching high school English and French that summer and is now a university academic advisor. He is also a poet, and he is our guest coming up on Friday with his book of poetry for Red State, Gay Poems for Red States. So please stay tuned because you'll hear Willie tell his story in his own voice.
And he is fabulous. I
He's
just want to add that.
amazing. His passion for teaching, for students finding their light, and even for his home region is evident, and you will see that on Friday.
Mm-hmm.
In keeping up with the news for trans rights from advocate.com, and this harkens to always be alert and aware of your surroundings, a trans woman was stripped of her clothing and viciously attacked outside a nightclub in Palm Springs, California, Saturday evening. Police are investigating the incident as a possible hate crime, and the assault was captured on camera. So if you wish to look further into the story and follow my link, be warned there is triggering violence visible. From news5cleveland.com, a federal judge has ruled that an Ohio school district can go forward with a policy allowing trans students to use the bathroom that matches their gender identity. Quote, not every contentious debate concerning matters of public importance presents a cognizable federal lawsuit, U.S. District Judge Michael J. Newman wrote in his decision. Thank you, Judge Newman. Thank you. Almost done, I promise. But again, things I want you all to be aware of. From Boston.com, Mike and Catherine, aka Kitty Burke, are suing the Massachusetts Department of Children and Family officials, claiming the state barred them from fostering children over their religious beliefs on LGBTQ plus individuals. The Burkes reportedly underwent several hours of interviews during the interview process, and much of the questioning, they said, centered on what they would do if their child was questioning their sexuality or gender. The lawsuit reads, in response to those questions, Mike and Kitty emphasized that they would love and accept their child no matter his or her future sexual orientation or struggles with gender identity. However, the social worker's report included in the lawsuit notes that the couple was asked about their feelings on parenting children who identify as LGBTQ+, and Kitty immediately said, let's take the T out of it, according to the report. Asked how she would feel if her child identified as lesbian, gay, bisexual, queer, or other sexuality, she reportedly replied, there's nothing wrong with it. I'm going to love you the same, but I believe you would need to live a chaste life. In a later email, the social worker noted that the Burkes have a lot of strengths and really seem to understand the adoption and foster care. However, she wrote, their faith is not supportive of LGBTQ plus youth, and neither are they. So, the reason that story struck me is in the 70s or so, the Catholic Church was accused of a lot of baby stealing from underage mothers to put them into the adoption system to raise money for the Catholic Church. Karma's a bitch.
Mm-hmm.
That concludes my list for the week. What have you got, Baz?
Well, it's a lot shorter list than yours.
I'm just trying to help people
No,
stay
no,
informed.
you're doing the work of the Lord. I know. I get it. All right. So my list is actually probably there are a lot of people out there who think that it's great that you get to talk more than I do. Anyways, Strictly star John Waite, whom I absolutely adore. I've loved this guy since he was on British Bake Off season 3. Um, had a conversation and finally let out of the bag a suspicion that had happened during his appearance on Strictly Come Dancing. He and his partner nearly won the trophy, but was given to Rose Ailing Ellis, who actually won it. So, he talked about there was rumors about him and Johannes Rebede, who was his dance partner, that there was a lot seemed to be going on. They just meshed so well. He did say that there was an instance of it being very close to ruining his current relationship. And so he had a conversation with his partner and they separated briefly, but then they were reunited. They've been together since. And the conversation he's having is that you need to understand that the heart works in many ways, and I mean not the physical heart, but the heart that we all associate with love works in many ways, and that you may fall in love 2 or 3 times, more times in your lifetime. It doesn't mean that you have to act upon all of them. And that's something that he's learned. Part of it is that he has this ADHD and compulsive behavior, which is why he's had problems with drugs in the past. It's also why he has an eating disorder. So there are things that you have to recognize in yourself and still work within that and do your best. So he just put it out there that he had this situation. He did quote unquote fall in love with his dance partner. He says when you're up against a man for 10 hours a day and doing a lot of moves, he said something can stir. And he said he's never had the conversation with Johannes, his dance partner. So, they are in communication, but John treats it as a distant relationship for many reasons. But I just thought it was interesting because he talks about how people cope with these situations. And I think it's a conversation we don't have enough.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's a great step for someone to actually step up and say, hey, this happened to me. I worked through it. My partner and I are fine. We're still together. Everything is great. But, I want to acknowledge this did occur because there are situations where people find themselves in those moments and don't know how to handle it. And then sometimes it can be almost beyond their control because you could have other things that are contributing to that situation. So I just wanted to bring that up. And I wish him the very best. I just adore that guy. I think he's great. Andrew Scott. our gay villain from Sherlock, and openly queer actor, is set to play all the roles in a solo version of Chekhov's Uncle Vanya, and he is sporting some sexy mutton chops. You need to see his picture. It's a thirst trap. But he's doing a West End production of Uncle Vanya, and he's going to play all of the roles. And everybody says he is phenomenal in the rehearsal process. And so they said it's going to be a standout production. So if you're in the London area, definitely check out Uncle Vanya when it opens, and go see him. I just really support this actor. I really like him a lot. Um, Hearts in filing this under life imitating art, or art kind of hedging life situation. Heartstopper's Joe Locke officially comes out as gay. Yes, we all suspected, it's been hinted at, and he said he never he says, I've been openly gay since I was like 12. People have assumed and written it, but I have never corrected anyone because I haven't felt the need to. I never specifically stated my sexuality until now. So in season 2, there is a big thing with Kit Connor's character where they keep explaining you don't owe anyone anything. You don't owe telling people that who you are and who you love. It is something that is a personal journey, and here is art imitating life, where Joe never really said, we all kind of suspected, but again, you don't owe anyone anything. And I really like that kind of underscored. And it's another way that this show has changed the dialogue on coming out process. And for a lot of the youth, our children out there, who are much more open about stating who they are, what they identify as, and which is everything that our generation fought for. It's I'm just really, so it's just like a great um kind of situation where they are holding the conversation that um it is a personal journey. It's something that, even though the children are more open about it, they don't, um how will I put this, they don't feel the need to do it as we did, growing up, where the need to be out is the be all end all. It is the claiming of your truth moment. I think a lot of these kids nowadays already have their truth. They already hold their truth, and they expect you to catch up. And I think that's what Heartstopper really kind of explains very well, that it's something that is a personal journey. Not everyone has it the same, and not everyone needs to proclaim it. And I think that that's something that we all could do with a bit more of. So there's that. The next thing I have up, and I promise my list is getting shorter and shorter, filed under can we just get 2 bags of dicks and beat the shit out of Zuckerberg and Musk? Because I'm tired of this billionaire. I'm gonna punch you. Yeah, well, when are you? I, bitch, get in the fucking ring. I'm gonna come out swinging a bag of lead-filled dicks, and I'm gonna beat the shit out of both of you. Just shut the fuck up and go sit your ass down in your little corners. God, men babies. I'm over it. I'm over man babies. All right, moving on. Old Hollywood birthed the gayest city in America. It's a really interesting conversation that's being held, and this is via Queerty, the queer news aggregate. They have a lot of photos showing how long Palm Springs, and I think this is a juxtaposition to your story about the trans person, that
Mhm.
Palm Springs has been the gay jewel of old Hollywood for as long as Hollywood has been around. And it has a long history of the queer community being present there. So this is a really nice piece that's up there, and I included it because Vance has a timeshare in Palm Springs, and so I just thought it was a neat little story that has some really old time pictures and a lot of conversation about pretty much how it is the Fire Island of the West Coast, that as much as Fire Island is a draw for gays in the on the east, Palm Springs is that here in the west. So just wanted to bring that up. In a what the fuckery, just I'm so done with these conservatives. It's just clear they do not have any agenda other than hate. That's literally all they've boiled down to. So if you
Hmm.
vote for Republican, you need to look at yourself in the mirror and go, what the fuck?
Can
What
I
the actual fuck?
can I redirect that statement? Here's the thing. If you've been voting Republican your whole life and you feel you owe it to the party, it's okay for you to say, you know what, the party's gone off the rails. I don't believe what it believes anymore. I won't judge you for it if you switch sides now and you think about it. But if you're stuck in a, I can't change now because of what I voted in the past, I can't support you then. So please consider changing because
Or just
to
go
say,
independent.
it's okay to
For
say
fuck's
my
sake, you
party
don't
is
have
not
to
what it used to be.
you don't have to jump to the D side either. Go independent. That's what a lot of Republicans have done who don't
Hmm.
like the Republican Party anymore. They're just saying, okay, I'm just not going to be affiliated.
Hmm.
There is another option. It doesn't
Yeah.
mean you don't get to vote for either candidate from the two major parties, but
Hmm.
it just means, just to say, I'm undeclared. Fine, campaign for my vote.
So anyway, on to your hate story. I'm sorry for interrupting.
No. So conservatives are now outraged for Skittles having a pride collection.
I saw that.
It's fucking taste the rainbow, people. It's in the fucking tagline and it has been for like over 30 years.
I know.
It's what the holy hell. Okay. Y'all just need to buy some Gorilla Glue and put it across your lips as lip gloss and put some on the seat and sit your ass down. And we don't want to hear from you ever again. That's all I have for my comments on media that I've kind of perused. Are we on to who won our week?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to go with uh, an artist that I don't know a lot about. I know that they exist, I know that they're out there, and I know that they have stated since 2018 that they're queer. Um, but Jason Mraz has said he is now done broadcasting as a hetero, and he is now fully embracing his queerness. He said that he's accepting of his queer identity and will no longer be broadcasting as hetero. The "I'm Your Singer" previously came out as bisexual in 2018. In an interview with The Advocate, the pop star says, "I will admit that I probably spent the first close to 20 years of my career just broadcasting as hetero. Mraz blamed growing up on a homophobia around homophobia for not embracing his queerness. Saying girl in my songs, and a lot of that is growing up on a conservative street," he said, and growing up around homophobia and feeling like I needed to protect some secret. Well, he said that in he's had kind of experiences, to summarize the article, which is up on Pretty, I think is where I got this. No, Pink News. It's up on Pink News. Um, he said that he has had experiences. I had a guy friend I was hanging out with who was gay, and we were basically best friends. It took me about 3 months before I realized, oh my God, we're dating. Right before I moved to California, he gave me a pretty strong-willed kiss goodbye, which I have never experienced before. Unfortunately, he had a little bit more facial hair than I like. He added, "I have a bisexually open mind, but I've never been in a sexual relationship with a man. If the right one came along, well, then sure." In 2018, Mraz appeared to come out as bisexual when he wrote the lyrics, "I'm by your side always." And he later clarified that he was two-spirited and was at the time married to a woman. He explained, "I've had experiences with men even while I was dating a woman who became my wife. It was like, wow, does this mean I'm gay?" And my wife laid it all out for me. So he said that he's now just going to embrace who he is. And I think that's a great thing. I think that if you get to a point, and especially in your career where you're secure enough that you don't really care anymore, and there are enough out queer, musicians who are really, breaking it in and flying up the charts. So it's not the career killer that a lot of people used to think it was. But I think older generations, mine, Vance's, and Jason's, I think that it takes them a while to really see that in living your truth, you can actually do some of your best work. So I'm really looking forward to what he creates going forward. I think that's a wonderful thing. So he won my week because he's decided to step into the light and put his pride on. You go, boy.
Interestingly, he and another celebrity were my honorable mentions.
Hmm.
So him for the story you just shared, but Wayne Brady on his TikTok came out this week as Polly. And
Yeah.
he said, you know what? It's time to just love who I love. And it's a beautiful, short, 20-second celebration video. So they were my honorable mentions for, like you said, later in life, finding out that it's okay to just be me. If you don't know who Wayne Brady is, he's a comedian long known for Whose Line Is It Anyway? Incredibly talented man. I am so glad to see him happy and smiling. My win, though, is going to go out to the teachers who are still trying to educate students in the face of this current culture and political war bullshit. You should never have been forced to be an advocate for your noble and important profession. I hate that the world is doing this to you, but we at Road Podcast value your expertise and your dedication to your calling. Thank you. And if you need to get out of a hate state and go teach in a state that loves you and embraces you, we support that too.
And we've had
several teachers.
Teachers from Florida on this show. Yeah, so definitely should check out their episodes.
100%. All right, folks, Written on the Edge is produced by Rogue Ravens Media. For our disclaimers, links to social media, our listen stations, or to sign up as a guest, visit www.rotepodcast.com. If you enjoy learning about new artists or hearing our thoughts on entertainment and news media, please like and subscribe so you get the alerts for new episodes. Follow us on YouTube so you can see all of the inappropriate hand signals that Baz is making while I'm talking. And tune in next week for your queer media fix.
Bye.
That was disgusting.
What's that? Closing time. The bums rush in melody, dear.